Hello, this is Megan.
And this is Mark.
Welcome to our 16th video of the Star Wars Land construction at Disneyland. Today is December 2nd, 2017.
First of all, telehandler is lifting a steel beam to be placed inside the Battle Escape show building. Notice the two workers on either side of the beam. They're guiding it as the telehandler moves it closer to the opening of the building. Next, another telehandler is bringing a stack of metal studs for the Battle Escape. These metal studs will be used for the vertical framing of the interior walls of the building. Notice the length of the studs are too long to fit inside the opening of the building. The fork of the telehandler is rotating to position the studs to allow them to fit. The telescopic boom of the telehandler is extending out to place the studs inside the building. Now the studs are lowered and the telehandler releases them. Next, if we look near the side of the building, electrical conduits have been installed. These conduits lead to the side building of the Battle Escape. Now if we focus our attention to the top of the side building, support posts and ducts have been put in place. These will be used to help support the HVAC system. We're in Disneyland and we'll peek through this fence at this tunnel entrance to see what we can see. We can see that the structure closest to us now has a cylindrical top to it. We'll look at the official Galaxy's Edge model to see what the final look of this structure will be. I'll highlight the cylindrical top piece in yellow. This is what it looked like last month, and I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. Now if we look to the right, we can see the bridge framework that we observed last month. And behind this framework, a second bridge framework has been put up. Let's go ahead and view these bridges on the model. Here's the location of the first bridge we observed, and here's the second bridge.
Today is December 7th, 2017.
It is very windy, and as you can see, the crawler cranes will not be used today due to the wind conditions. More electrical conduits are being installed for the Battle Escape. Here a worker is flexing one of the conduits before it's put into place. Now he's putting it into position. If we look to the right a little bit, we can see that another worker is creating a metal framing to put around the conduits. The worker is putting the metal framing into place. If we slide to the right a little more, we can see that workers are adding rebar to the top of Formwork. From here we can see that the formwork is more defined from what we observed last month. We can definitely make out the shape of the formwork, which will be used to create concrete walls on top of the structure. Now we'll go ahead and compare the shape of this area to the model. The horizontal rebar that we saw the workers adding to the formwork will be located at the top of the caves. This is just an estimate, but you can definitely see a pattern when comparing this area of the model to the formwork that is being created. However, we're observing the formwork from the back side instead of the front side that we're observing from the model. Next, we'll go back to the formwork. And if our approximation is correct, the cave with the waterfall on top of it will be located about here, below the formwork. Which makes sense because if we observe what this area looked like back in September, we can see green PVC pipes that will be used for drainage purposes. Next, we'll take a trip on the Mark Twain. We can see that more mesh forms have been added to the framework on the side of the battle escape. From this angle, we can see that more mesh forms are also being added to the arch on top of the battle escape. Next, we'll go into Mickey's Toontown to see what has changed from that perspective. In the distance, we can see the rock spires that are located on the top of the Millennium Falcon show building. If we get a closer look, we can see that texture has been added to one of the spires. This is what it looked like last month, and this is what the spire looks like today.
Today's December 16th, 2017.
More of the wall panels have been put up on the Battle Escape. And as mentioned before, we don't know if Battle Escape is the official name for the attraction. Only time will tell. This is what it looked like last week, and I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like now. If we look to the top of the building, we can see that forms have been added to create a rock spire. This is what it looked like last week, and this is what it looks like now. Next, if we focus our attention to the front of the Battle Escape side building, we can see that a trench has been made leading to the conduits. Also notice to the right of the trench, horizontal rebar is in place to create a concrete slab. And it's possible that this slab will be for a concrete pad for a pad mount transformer or power generator. Now if you look closely, you can see some electrical conduits inside the building. Also notice that a worker is laying out and taping a vapor barrier into position. This yellow barrier is identical to what we saw laid out last month on the ground level of the docking bay. It's an underslab barrier and it's used to prevent moisture from damaging the floor of the building. Basically, the idea behind a vapor barrier on the ground level is to stop water vapor from penetrating the slab once it's added. Now notice the internal wall behind the worker. This wall isn't too far from the side of the building. This indicates that there'll be more than one room inside the building. Looking at the top of the building, we can see that more ductwork has been installed for the HVAC system. Now if we look to the area where the caves will be, we can see that a concrete slab has been added to the horizontal rebar that we observed last week. Also, 2 layers of wall forms have been put in place. Concrete has been added between these 2 layers to create the walls. And notice that the new wall height is shorter than the wall next to it. Let's look at the model to see what this area will eventually look like. I believe the area where the higher wall meets up with the lower wall is approximately here. If we slide to the left, we can see that a telehandler is transporting ducks to the side opening of the battle escape. The workers are unloading the ducks and bringing them into the building. Looking over towards the Millennium Falcon Show building, a crawler crane is transporting ducks to the top of the building. And here's the ducks being lowered. The crane's belt is released from the ducks. Next, we'll go on Tarzan's treehouse. More detail has been added to the rock spires. Also notice the yellow wall paneling that has been installed on the side wall of the Millennium Falcon Show building. This paneling is a fiberglass mat sheathing that has gypsum between the fiberglass layers. Gypsum is a mineral that has moisture-resistant properties to help protect the wall against water damage. Also between the trees, we can see the top of the village area framework. Next, we'll go into Mickey's Toontown. Here we can see the new rock spire that's being made, along with the rock arch. This is what it looked like before the mesh forms were added. Now mesh forms have been added to part of the rock arch. And this is from last week. You can see that most of the mesh forms are in place for the rock arch. I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like now. And as you can see, scaffolding has been placed around the rock arch, and all the rock spire forms are now put into place. Here on Donald's boat, we can see that concrete has been added to the tallest spire. Also notice that a textured layer has been added to the spire on the right. This is what it looked like last time we were here. You can see the mesh forms of the tallest spire. Now I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. Here we are in Gadget's Go Coaster, and we'll look behind us. In the distance, we can see the framework for the structure that is located on the side of the Millennium Falcon Show building. And this is what it's going to look like once it's completed.
Today is December 26, 2017.
Concrete is being added to the floor of the Battle Escape side building. And from here we can see that a concrete truck is adding concrete to a hopper of a boom pump. Notice that the hopper has a mesh crate that the concrete falls through. This will help prevent large rocks and chunks from plugging up the pump hose. The hopper churns the concrete, keeping it liquid and flowable, before the concrete is pumped to its location. The hose of the boom pump is inside the building, distributing the concrete. On the ground level, horizontal rebar has been installed, where the concrete will be added. On the top of the building, a worker is applying duct sealant. This sealant will help prevent leaks in the ducts. This is important to help minimize room-to-room pressure imbalances and also help save energy in the long run. On top of where the caves are going to be, we can see that the concrete forms have been removed, and now we have a good view of the new concrete walls that have been made. Now if we focus our attention to the top of the Battle Escape, doors are being installed for one of the top structures. On the other side of the top of the building, workers are continuing to weld forms together for the rock spires. Now if we look over to the top of the Millennium Falcon Show building, a new beam structure is being made to the left of the rock spires. Here are workers attaching bolts to the beams. Next we'll go into Mickey's Toontown to see this beam structure from the other side.
Today's December 28th, 2017.
Workers are adding concrete to forms to create block castings. Now that they're done adding the concrete, the hose of the boom pump is folded to stop the flow of the concrete. If we look at the side building of the Battle Escape, we can see the concrete that has been added to the ground level. Next to this building, a truck is transporting in a couple power generators. A crane is lifting one of the generators into position. Now if we focus our attention to the top of the Battle Escape, a crawler crane is lifting a roof for one of the top structures. Here it is being lowered into place. Here we are at the tunnel entrance closest to Fantasyland. And we'll go ahead and peek through the fence. Concrete forms have been put in place. Let's look at the model to see what's going to be made at this location. Alright, we're looking through the tunnel entrance of the model. We'll look over the entrance to get a better view. The concrete forms are being used to create a rock wall. Now we're in Critter Country looking at workers adding beams to the side wall of the Battle Escape. Next, we'll go back to the Mickey and Friends parking structure. However, this time we'll observe the construction from a different side of the parking structure. Between the Battle Escape and the trees, we have a view of the village area in the distance. It's hard to tell exactly what part of the village area we're looking at, but it is definitely the village area. The white crane behind the crawler crane looks like it's being used to build a new structure. From this angle, it looks like the cranes are side by side. However, it's hard to gauge depth perception when being zoomed in. To help us get a better idea of the exact location of the cranes in relation to the Battle Escape, we'll view a side profile of the cranes. Here's the crawler crane, and here's the other crane working close to the new structure in the village area. Notice that the crane is to the left of the rock spire. Next, we'll look at the model from the opposite side of the Battle Escape. This is the rock spire that we observed from the Mickey and Friends parking structure. It is possible that the framework that we observed is for this building. Well, that's a taste of things to come.
We can't wait to see what they build next.